Okay, so we're going to start with 75. I don't know what you're doing there.
Well, it's because technically in the title it's 7eventy.
7eventy.
Yeah,
5. Yeah.
That's a pretty bad title. That's just my opinion. But I mean, what do I know?
Well, the funny thing about it is that you've got that title, then you've got this other title, which seems to be like a reissued title just for the US called Dead Tone.
Which is generic, but I don't like either one.
Yeah. Well, like you're saying, Dead Tone's more generic. I think 75, I don't necessarily like, they've got the 7 and the 5 in the title. It's a little too much, but I guess, because the movie revolves around that game, I guess that's a title I prefer to call it. And that seems to be the title that most countries use. So essentially, it's just about a bunch of college students going to a party at a secluded mansion, and during the night they play a game of 75, which involves calling a random stranger and trying to keep them on the line for a minimum of 75 seconds without that person finding out it's a prank call, basically. And it usually involves most of the prank calls pretending to be some sort of deranged type of person coming to kill them. I think one girl treats it like it's a sex line, or and I guess they're not all that inventive for a bunch of learned individuals. These smart college students who aren't all that smart in the movie. Anywho, one of them seems to prank call a real maniac, and this leads to a slasher crashing their party and basically massacring the fuck out of the mansion. So, I do remember seeing this movie back when it came out, and sort of more recently, I saw a cheap Blu-ray copy, $6-7, whatever it was, and decided, okay, I'll just buy it and watch it again. If for anything, I remember I did find there's a song in the end credits that I used to listen, or still listen to, a lot of like metal type music, and there was a song there that I remember enjoying, so I thought at least I'll listen to that song again. Anywho, the funny thing about this movie, it's so weird because it's got all these douchey characters, like really ultra cliched as well. You've got the preppy rich boy, and you've got the overtly gay guy, and you've got the token black guy.
That guy was gay?
Well, yeah. And you've got the white boy trying to act like a black guy, and yeah, they've got all these silly characters. And the funny thing about it is, as I watch this movie, at least the first half before all the slashing action happens, it feels like it's a movie where they watched Scary Movie, the parody movie of all the slashes. Yes. It's like they watched that and then said, let's turn that into a serious movie, rather than seeing all these serious movies and then turning them into parodies. So it's kind of like a reverse parody, I guess. At least that's how it feels to me, and that makes it somewhat amusing. So I say this with a little bit of shame that I actually sort of enjoyed it.
So I'm a pretty big fan of slasher movies, as long as they're from the 70s or 80s. If it's a post-2000 slasher, I have very I'm not sure what the right word would be. Some of them work for me and many of them don't. And this movie, I thought it had potential, but it didn't really do that much for me. I mean, it was enjoyable in a way, but I mean, it's not something I can ever imagine myself going out of my way to watch again. I mean, honestly, if you see it once, it's pretty fine. I mean, the characters were, generally speaking, pretty horrible. I thought most of the slaughter once the killer got to the house, I thought most of that was pretty, generic, and not much of it's thought out. There's like an okay decapitation, but
there's a couple
that's
of
about it.
decapitations.
Yeah, there were too. And that's most, I guess you can only do so much with an axe, but I mean, I wasn't blown away. I mean, and also the killer looks like he was taken straight out of Urban Legend, and that was sort of disappointing too. So, I mean, it's like the exact same code. So, that was somewhat disappointing. I mean, I don't know, the movie's okay for like a 2007 slasher. I don't think it has enough going to make it that great, and even the ending, though I think it's, creative, and I think it's sort of interesting, I don't think it was executed that well. And I would rather not talk about the last 5 seconds of the movie, which I thought were completely horrible.
Yeah, it does kind of come off as sort of like a Scream ripoff. You've got the killer on the phone, and then the kind of twist towards the end, even though it's not exactly the same as Scream, it's kind of like a similar type of twist. Yeah, but I thought with the maniac killer in the movie, the one wearing the coat, even though it is kind of like a ripoff of Urban Legend, and I just enjoyed a lot of the way they filmed a lot of his attacks. Not necessarily the kills themselves, but like a lot of close-up shots where you can't really see the guy's face, but I don't know. I just thought some of those shots were pretty entertaining for me. I mean, we've got Rutger Hauer in the movie, and he
It's pretty pointless in my opinion.
Yeah. His character didn't really add that much to the movie, but it's kind of still good to see that veteran type presence in the movie. I think without him, even though he didn't really add anything to the movie,
never would have made DVD.
Yeah, so. Yeah, it would have been even more difficult, I think, for some people to kind of keep their interest. So just kind of having his face on the screen probably did something for someone out there. Unfortunately, as we all know, he died, about 4 weeks ago.
Yes.
Yeah. I guess the other thing that I mean, you can't really watch this movie and take everything too seriously with it. Like I said, it does have this feel where it's like they're trying to turn a parody movie into a serious movie, and like that.
My quick question to you is, how do you know they were trying to turn a parody into a serious movie, or they were just making a shit movie?
Well, no, they're probably just making a shit movie. I'm just saying that's how it kind of felt to me. I don't think that's actually what they were trying to do. That's just kind of how it came across to me. Like just some of the outrageous, over-the-top characters, and just how really cliched a lot of them were. But also, one of the main black actors, the one who, I don't know if he created the game, but he's the one always proposing let's play 75 or whatever. You'd think that the events that took place right at the start of the film, like 12 years ago, that right then, with all the mayhem that ensued then, would stop you from wanting to play that ever again. And he seems quite proud to be like the ringleader of 75 or whatever it is.
Yeah, I didn't quite understand. I feel like they could have maybe done a little more going into, I mean, not just his character, but, I know the characters are sort of generic, cookie cutter cutouts, but even so, they could have gone a bit deeper into some of it. I mean, there was, like I said, there was a potentially, interesting story to be told there. I just don't know if they did that great of a job seeing it.
Yeah, I mean, I can see, like, to most people, this is a pretty below-average slasher, or depending on how much you enjoy post-2000 slasher flicks. So, it really is a product of its time, where you were getting a lot of cheap movies out on DVD, and I don't think the budget was all that high.
On the upside, you did get Crazy Carl, so I mean, you have some things going for you.
Yeah.
Actually, the funny thing is, he's probably one of the better characters in the movie. I mean, he did try to help out pretty, he seemed okay. Honestly, the competition's not very high, but...
Usually his type of character, I think, has a lot of trouble getting with the ladies, and he managed to get some.
Not only did he get some, he got the hottest one, so...
Yeah.
Just my opinion.
I can't recall exactly which which ones were the hottest ones, but yeah, I'm sure it was good.
She was the Latino chick.
Yeah, the one who pretended to be the sex line or whatever.
I watched that scene about 6 times.
Yeah, and I believe the movie, I don't know if it was fully funded or partially funded by Irvin Johnson, who is a very popular basketball player for anyone out there. Magic Johnson. So, he clearly just put up some money and was like, make a cheap film. Hopefully I get some money back out of this. Yeah, so 7eventy 5 the 75. We're gonna really run that one into the ground.
And I'm not done yet.
Yeah, it's a movie that's it's not a good movie, but for some reason I just kind of enjoyed the fact that everything was just either over the top or just so silly that I found it amusing, at least for the first half, and then I found the second half with all the slashing to be not great, but quite entertaining enough. I give the movie, I'll sneak it up to a 7 out of 10, which seems like a pretty generous score for something that I think most people would probably give a 5 on average, give or take. But no, I enjoyed the hooded slasher character, even if it's kind of like a direct rip-off of some other movies out there.
Yeah, I don't think the movie is necessarily terrible. It's definitely a below average movie. But, it's watchable. If you're a fan of slashes, you can probably have an okay time at this one. I thought there was a bit of a struggle getting through, I don't know, maybe like the first 20 minutes or so. Because the beginning's okay, but then you get like a bunch of completely unlikable college kids and you hate every single one of them. And the ones you do like are making stupid decisions, so it's sometimes difficult. If they had changed a few ways that they executed the conclusion, maybe had a few more flashbacks, or just explained a few things about it, I think it might have gone a long way to at least help. And like I said, the last 5 seconds of the movie was completely terrible. I can't stand. Like, they could have just ended it. It would have been okay if they just ended it, but they had to do that. And a lot of movies do that. But why? It just, I almost took a point away just for that ending. I just hate stuff like that. It was so pointless. The movie's okay. If you're a fan of slashers, you'll probably have an okay time. But it is a below average movie, and I'd probably give it a 6 out of 10.
It's funny where you mentioned that, because I for some reason I still just find that amusing, given everything else that happened in the movie. So I thought those last 5 seconds, even though it's like really corny and yeah,
He actually, you make a good point. If it was intentionally done because it's so stupid, then that's a well done decision.
It almost seems like they're taking the piss at that point. Anyways, actually, one other thing I thought I'd just quickly mention, that blonde girl who gives out the address to the mansion. I mean, what an idiot! And that's just another one of those like over the top idiotic moments in the film that just like you're just sitting there thinking, how is this person even in college? Like,
it was the pizza man asking, she just had to tell. That's a close-up of the pizzas.
Pretty similar voice to the guy that was the supposed maniac on the phone. He didn't really try to hide his voice or anything. It's like, what an idiot.
Well, he needs a job too.